Right, hey guys, how we doing? Back into the video from Annie News, checking out another cook content video for Season 2 of Solo Leveling, Episode 4. What an episode! It's fantastic. I am loving this anime. I absolutely loving Solo Leveling. It's absolutely fantastic. This episode was great. The reassessment was fantastic. I love that it was him going in to want to be reassessed and the whole error thing and the question and whoa, and then learning how many S ranks there are and all that stuff, and boom. And that ending really pissed me off because I was like, oh, what's going to happen next then? Bam. But really intrigued to see what was left out, potentially added. Because I feel like the stuff with the mum and him trying to get the ingredients to that is just like, they're adding loads to it, but I love it. It adds extra layers to story in that, so let's get into it. Let's check it out.
It's good to see the fan service goes both ways in Solo Leveling.
Yeah.
We're still going through the story pretty fast though, so for a dialogue-heavy episode such as this, I'm sure you can already imagine all the little interactions that were left out. Minor things like Chairman Go's desire for a successor, all the way to the introduction of Korea's former strongest guild known as the Reapers. Sung's reevaluation was definitely the focal point, but amongst that was a lot of lore behind hunters, guilds, and the relationship between them. So, if you want to see that and everything else the anime left out, here's all the differences between that, the manhwa, and the novel.
Nice.
Episode 16, I Need to Stop Baking, covering chapters 61 to 66 from the manhwa.
Oh, that's more chapters than normal.
Chapters 75 to 82 from the novel.
Again, more chapters than normal.
With Sung having just defeated Metis, he was now sitting pretty at level 77, on his way to floor 76, and farming demons worth 1700 XP apiece now.
Damn.
That was the minimum reward for demons he came across now, since a new superior type was becoming more and more frequent.
That looks so cool.
They were demons Sung estimated to be as strong as Vulcan, formidable opponents that made proceeding incredibly difficult. What caused him to truly become hard-stuck, though, wasn't the lack of food or the tough enemies around every corner, but rather the increasingly difficult terrain that made traversal near impossible.
Oh, okay.
Last episode I mentioned how the higher the floor, the more destroyed the environment.
Yeah.
Well, here in the 70s, everything was just a fiery hellscape.
Wow,
It was
okay,
so hot
yeah.
that by floor 76, Sung would lose stamina just by standing still.
Oh, wow, so just trying to get through it is tough. Damn, never mind fighting all the stuff.
His fatigue bar went up for every little movement now. This was no way to fight high-level demons, and it certainly wasn't the optimal way to clear the tower. So, in order to progress any further, Sung knew he needed to leave and come back with artifacts.
Can he take people in with him? Like, is that something that happens later? Can he potentially, like, when he joins these people, can he ask these other S ranks to, like, jump in with him to help him? Is that an option?
Defensive items which would make these terrain effects negligible. This brings us to the real reason behind why he wants to get reassessed, because where in the anime it's shown to be out of a desire to continue leveling, in the novel and manhwa it's simply because he needs these artifacts.
Oh.
He can't purchase or sell them without raising suspicion as an E rank, and that in turn means he can't clear the dungeon. That then prevents the elixir of life from being crafted, and that in turn makes it so his mom can't be saved. All this stems from him still being an E rank, so if he wanted to achieve any of it, he first needed to get reevaluated. Such was the conclusion Sung had come to here. Now, there was a small difference in the way Sung's quest reward was revealed, since where in the anime Sung knows he's working towards the elixir of life from the beginning, in the novel and manhwa the recipe is only given to him after the quest is done.
Oh.
It's the undisclosed reward we saw last episode, the part of the blessed random box signifying his desire. I had totally forgot about this myself, but you gotta remember this whole dungeon was from a box telling him it'd give him what he desired.
Right, yeah.
That just so happened to be the elixir of life, so as I'm sure you can guess, Sung's deepest desire is him wanting to bring his mom back.
Yeah.
What then will the cursed box give? Well, I guess that's for the system to decide. Whatever it thinks he needs is what he'll get. This was actually the reward he chose instead of a shop item because Sung figured he could always just get items from the dungeon. Plus, with the shop constantly updating with better items every day, there was a good chance he'd just end up selling whatever shop item he chose. Instead, he figured it was best to gamble on something with a bit more longevity. His final reward was the plus 20 in stats, and all that went into intelligence. It brought his status to this now, enough to make him feel confident against just about anyone, so that was part of why hiding his powers weren't a necessity anymore. The only thing he needed to confirm before his reevaluation was whether Jinho was able to succeed or not. So, one quick phone call revealed negotiations went well, and that was all Sung needed to hear before heading to the association.
Cool. I like that he chipped in. Ah, that would have been nice to see.
It was at the assessment office that Sung would be looked down as a delusional E rank because time and time again, an upset low rank would come in looking for a second chance. The chief believed
Right.
this to be just another of the
Oh yeah, like, no, I can't be E rank. Try it again. I see.
cases, so he urged the clerk to push Sung forward as fast as possible. To him, low rank hunters like this were people you just couldn't reason with. No, it was far easier to just have them pay the fee and face reality themselves. This particular case had caught the chief's attention, though, because something about Sung's name seemed familiar. That's when he remembered Beck specifically asked to be notified if he ever showed up,
Right.
leading to an immediate phone call straight to his office. Beck would then request to know Sung's rank as soon as it was taken, resulting in the chief having to witness the reevaluation himself.
Okay, makes
He
sense why he popped
personally
in.
didn't think anything of it, though, because when a similar scenario happened about 3 months ago, that turned out to be a big fat nothing burger. It was a false alarm just like most of the other reawakenings. The only reason the chief decided to check up on this one then was mainly to humor Beck and the relationship he had with him. I mean, it was after all quite profitable to be a guild informant. Now, it was during the time that Sung was waiting that the anxiety of the people around him would make him nostalgic. He couldn't help but smile as he remembered the way his own mind raced during this process. He had first imagined all the possibilities with his own rank, then extended that curiosity to the ranks of the people around him. Such was the natural mindset for those getting evaluated, and it was being exemplified again by the people around him. The only difference between now and 5 years ago was the presence of a whole bunch of recruiters. These weren't the recruiters you'd find from the Hunter or White Tiger Guild, though, but rather a more parasitic bunch working for the small to mid-level guilds. They were a more desperate type seeking just about anyone. Why, might you ask, would that be? Well, because smaller guilds don't get a lot of applicants, it was only natural that they take the initiative themselves. The big guilds typically weren't very interested in low-rank recruits, so that left a whole bunch of hunters fresh for the picking right out of evaluation. Now, the reason I call them parasitic is because recruiters like these feed off the fact a lot of these low-level hunters are desperate. They know they can easily sway them with an attractive offer, but what they conveniently leave behind is that they're recruiting them for certain death. What I mean is that with every small guild wanting to become bigger, they'll often try to clear gates stronger than they can handle.
Oh.
That in turn leads to lots of accidents, and that translates into a high mortality rate.
Yeah, a lot of death.
So, with the high mortality rate leading to lots of vacancies, recruiting new hunters became doubly important for these guilds. It's the core reason behind why their recruiters are always present here. Time would then pass as multiple hunters went in and out, and for each that exited with a dejected look, every recruiter would avoid them like the plague. It seems as desperate as they were, none wanted anything to do with E ranks. This is why rank is so important, because not only was it the determination of how powerful you were, it also clearly defined how much money you could make. The C rank was the level at which good money could start to be made, because that's the threshold where options started to open up for you. You could either make money by acting as a freelancer or join a guild and be in a more secure position. Either way, the salary of a C ranker was typically equivalent to that of a doctor or lawyer,
Nice.
plus the massive
Whoa,
signing bonus
money.
they got if they joined a guild. So, this was the rank the nervous guy was hoping for, while the confident one actually came out with an E rank. This
No!
led the nervous guy to let Sung go first, bringing us to the whole evaluation process.
Oh, he was so chill and cool and was helping, like, the other guy, like, calm down. Ah.
It's here that once again Sung would be looked down on as a delusional E rank, but since the money was paid, the tester would proceed with the evaluation anyway. The chief would then enter right as the machine was bugging out, confirming the first S rank since Cha's evaluation 2 years ago. It's here he would then explain how the S rank isn't an actual ranking, but rather a special grouping for those who can't be measured.
Right, they just can't comprehend how strong they are. Right, cool.
So, there's no actual
Ooh, which means, right, so even though they're all S rank, they'll be in their own little... Ah, okay.
indication for how strong the S
Do you know what I
rank
mean?
would
Like, so what I'm thinking now is they're like, yeah, they're not all... So A ranks, B ranks, you know, it can gauge it, they're all the same. But these S ranks, they're all different because it's, like, beyond comprehension of the machine to be able to level it. So Ooh, that's
These
interesting.
are in comparison to each other because the levels at which they're measured aren't quantifiable.
Right, yeah.
The only way to know for sure is for them to fight. Now, it was
Cool.
while all this was going on that Choi would be with Wu, discussing both the Redgate incident and the ant mutations. He was basically asking if Huang Dong-su was the mystery person, then wanted to know how the investigation of the ant in Japan was going. The former was denied since Wu was there personally, then if the latter didn't
Kind of reminds me of Hunter x Hunter, how it's just washed up. You know what I mean? Like, and then when you get into the Chimera Ant arc, where it's like, that's how it kind
in
of happened.
fact prove ants could fly to other countries, a draft would be instated forcing hunters to fight against them. It didn't matter what guild they were from, every hunter deemed necessary would be ordered to fight them. It was a mandatory enlistment Choi had no problem getting behind. Shortly after, Choi would hear all the commotion, not because the building was close, but rather because he had a special sensitivity for these types of things. In fact, despite Wu not being able to hear a thing, Choi could hear everything clear as day. He knew pretty much instantly that an S rank had been evaluated. It was back in the lobby that every recruiter would be too stunned to move, since this was a level they'd never dealt with before. Like, if he was ranked C, then they would have just formed a line to talk to him. If he was ranked B, then everyone would be yelling attractive offers and guaranteeing him high-ranking spots right from the get-go. It was a chaotic method that actually worked more times than you might think, mainly because many people preferred to be the head of the snake over the tail of the dragon. That chaos then settled down if the hunter was an A rank, because the A rank was where the large guilds got involved. Special privileges were given which the small and medium guilds couldn't even offer. Things like a guaranteed position in the main strike force and lots of financial rewards to go along with it. There was also always the option to start your own guild, because when you're at the A rank, you're powerful enough to attract other hunters to you. Not so many as to create a large guild, but certainly enough to establish a smaller medium one. So, what happens then when an S rank is unveiled? Well, none of the recruiters would even try and talk to him. That is, unless they tried to act as his agent. Reason being that they knew recruiting him themselves would be impossible, but perhaps if they got into his good books, maybe they could be the one to send Sung on his way to one of the larger guilds. There was quite a bit of money to be made in being an S rank's agent too. So, the success of that quickly
course.
diminished any thoughts of the ridicule of failure, since one was momentary while the other lasted forever. It was right as the recruiters were about to make their move, though, that Choi would walk in, stopping all of that. It was an entrance that Sung was actually very grateful for, since it pretty much removed all the
Stopped
pressure
everything.
on him
Yeah.
instantly. Choi would then be so focused on making the Hunters Guild the strongest in the world that he didn't even consider the possibility of Sung saying no.
Right, I
You
loved
see,
it when he just
the
walked
moment
past him
Sung
in the anime.
mentioned how he hadn't chosen a guild yet, Choi had already started imagining his status as a global superpower. That was how much power a guild with 3 S ranks had. In the end, Sung would disregard Choi just
That
like how we
was
saw in the anime.
So cool. And he's like, wait, I did introduce myself, didn't I? It's just like,
Beck's timely arrival would indicate he knew about Sung before this, then the random hunter hoping for the C rank would come out revealing he got it.
nice.
Moving on to the hospital now, Wu's first words to Sung were actually about the double dungeon. He wanted to know if Sung was the one who cleared it. This, I believe, is relatively important because at the end of the whole conversation with Chairman Go after this, Sung finally states that it wasn't him. It was a firm response that kept the mystery of the double dungeon open. Something to keep in mind for both the reader and the association. This also confirmed Sung wasn't masquerading as a false ranker, since if he really did have the power he had now, both Go and Wu knew he wouldn't have let his comrades die like that. Wu would then ask Sung to meet the chairman, not as an order or a request to an association employee, but rather as a favor of great importance. It was an ask that clearly meant a lot to Wu, since accompanied with it was a deep bow Sung never would have expected from him. What went to intrigue Sung the most, though, was the fact Korea's strongest hunter was there to see him. Whatever the conversation was gonna be, Sung knew it would be more than just an attempt to recruit a powerful hunter to the association. Combine this with the fact Chairman Go wasn't someone anyone could just simply meet, and that made Sung more curious than you can imagine.
That was sick. This meeting was
To put
cool.
into context just how significant he was, not only was he president of the country's most influential organization, he was also a member of the National Assembly and the country's first S rank on top of that.
Right.
So, with political and financial giants across the globe begging to talk to him, passing this up wasn't something Sung believed he could afford. At least not yet, anyway. It was before the two could meet, though, that there was first a cutscene where Chairman Go was talking to his doctor. It was a scene which not only emphasized Mr. Go's deteriorating health, but also his dire need to find a replacement, with the doctor calling it a miracle that he could even walk.
So that's what he
The
wanted
only
when
advice he
meeting
could give was for Go
Son,
to
right?
take a break. This was unfortunately something he couldn't afford to do because the guilds around him were growing stronger by the day. They were practically as powerful as an entire country's military now. So, with him being the only thing keeping the association on even footing with these guilds, to step aside would mean to let the floodgates open. It would effectively allow the guilds to do whatever they want. There would be no authoritative figure under which they had to fear repercussions anymore. This is why Chairman Go can't retire, since he's essentially the monolith symbolizing health and power for the association.
He's keeping it all in balance, isn't he?
It was then that one phone call would reveal the potential to change that, leading to a meeting where finding a successor was actually the underlying purpose. At first he wasn't planning to do so, but after seeing the determination in the way Sung spoke, Go knew he was someone who could definitely be worthy of leading the association. He most certainly had the power to, so the only thing that remained to be seen was his character. So, as the conversation kicked off with what the association was offering, a good example was used to show the different lifestyle of association hunters. Like, where you'd be hard-pressed to find anyone who even knew Wu's name. Had a person like Kim lived and become a member of the main strike force, he would be known as a celebrity everywhere. He would be more famous and make more money, despite very clearly being less powerful than Wu. Why then would Sung want to become a member of the association? Well, the core underlying reason was, as we saw, balance. Sung was well aware magic beasts weren't the only monsters out there, so he fully understood why such a balance was important to maintain. He knew losing it would mean risking control over powerful beings that couldn't be controlled. This wasn't what Sung was thinking about, though, as what he was focused on instead was the successful path only Chairman Go could offer. Any large guild could provide fame and fortune, but only Mr. Go could have you sit at the National Assembly while also granting access to the government, association, and press. It was an incredible amount of influence that only he could provide. Now, the reason Sung's statement here resonated so deeply with Go was because fighting monsters was something he never got to do. By the time he had awakened as Korea's first S rank, he was already too old to fight in the dungeon.
Oh.
This forced him to look for other things to do, resulting in the creation of the Hunter Association. So, Go would use his fame to gather all sorts of powerful hunters, establish an association built around him, secure a spot within the National Assembly, then help create laws that kept hunters in check. For as much as Chairman Go had accomplished, though, he would always regret not being able to fight like how Sung so adamantly wants to.
I see. So when Sung's like, I belong in the dungeons, and he's like, God damn. It's like, yeah, he really feels it. Oh, wow.
So, to hear such passion from someone
There
so
you go.
powerful,
Right.
well, his weak heart now pumped faster than ever. Despite the doctors saying it was ready to quit at any time, Chairman Go now felt as lively as ever.
Yo.
The rest of the conversation went pretty much as we saw, aside from some
Want to go for
additional
a drink
context
and
that
that,
needs
yeah.
to be said about Go's drinking comment. There was an interesting saying that was lost in both the manhwa and anime. It was after asking if Wu would join him for a drink that Go would mention how the cup size of a man's drink determined the extent of the world he could take.
Oh.
Add that to this scene here, and Go's fascination with Sung's ability to drink makes a lot more sense.
Right.
He wanted to see how much of the world Sung could make his own. This serves as an interesting bit of nuance since it ties back to Sung's ability to drink infinitely.
Yeah.
It's a clever nod I personally really like towards Sung's character.
That's cool.
The novel then proceeds to rearrange some stuff.
Oh, mate, that
in the
ending.
next
Ah!
episode, but there was one scene we probably won't be getting for sure.
Oh.
It was the moment the Reapers Guild got news of a new S rank themselves. The chief got word from his contact at the association, but when he called to find out more about who this new S rank was, his contact not only informed him he'd just been fired, but also took full accountability for the wrong he'd committed. As it turns out, Chairman Go found out people were leaking information, then took it upon himself to fire those people personally.
Right.
This was something he'd never done before, so the fact he was doing so now really got the Reaper Guildmaster thinking.
Oh.
He couldn't help but wonder if maybe the chairman had some sort of vendetta against him. I mean, why forbid the leak of Sung's identity now when the same measures weren't taken 2 years ago with Cha? Combine this with the fact Choi and Beck already have this information, and that really made it seem like things were working against him. The chairman had also facilitated Beck's departure from the Reapers Guild, so you could say Mr. Go single-handedly orchestrated the Reaper Guild's downfall. Where it was once the #1 guild in the entire country, it now struggled to keep up with the top two. I'm gonna quickly switch things over to the scene with Hwang Dong-soo now because while it was for the most part the same, there was good reason for the deputy chief asking the question that he did. The reason he wasn't fully convinced Il-hwan was a monster was because clear footage showed him saving people from the destruction.
Oh.
The chief had never heard or seen of monsters doing that, so he...
Oh, okay, that is something, yeah. So, is this guy Sung Jin-woo's dad? Like, what is going on?
He genuinely thought maybe Hwang was mistaken. Hwang then countered by asking if he'd ever heard of a human emerging from a gate, providing a fair enough argument for the chief to accept. He would then say nothing on where Il-hwan was going and instead focus solely on getting revenge himself. All he needed was a couple of artifacts, of which his guild had plenty. In fact, if they added up the value of all the artifacts the Scavenger Guild possessed, the total would easily surpass the annual budget of a small nation.
Damn.
So, suffice to say, Hwang was quite confident.
Oh man, he's gonna go all
This brings us
out.
to Sung's own perusal of artifacts, leading to that revelation artifacts were expensive. Like, even with 1.7 billion won saved up, that still wasn't enough to buy anything useful. This made it clear just how difficult it was for a hunter to thrive, since with good items ranging from the millions to billions, there was a good chance a hunter would spend their lifetime unable to purchase any on personal funds alone. So, with money needed now more than ever, Sung knew he would have to wait for his S rank. The thing is, his official reassessment was still 2 days away. There was a moment when Sung believed his refusal to join the association would make that longer, but Go's heartfelt smile was one Sung believed to be genuine. After 4 years of minding hunters and reading their expressions, he got pretty good at knowing exactly how other people really felt about him. Sung still wanted to do something in the meantime though, so searching the recruitment boards was the only thing he could do. It was as he did that he would notice a lot more opportunities available than ever before. As for why, well, it turns out Sung's monopoly over C-rank gates had left a lot of people jobless. He had left freelancers without work for a week, and now it seemed like they were trying to clock in some overtime. C-rank gates had zero value to him now though, so while it would have been nice to freelance in a B or A rank gate, you'd never find a makeshift squad trying to do those. If you did, you'd essentially be signing up to die. So that forced Sung to search somewhere else, leading to his position as a miner. Now, rather than start that and stop halfway through, I think here's a good place to end the episode. Once again, there was an assortment of small cuts and big cuts, but overall I think the anime's still doing fine.
Oh man, I'm
Let
loving
me
it.
know in the comments whether you agree or disagree, and if you liked the video then leave a like. Be sure to subscribe to know when the next one comes out too. Until then though,
Ciao. Brilliant. Wow, such little interesting bits left out, but I am loving this. Absolutely loving it. It's brilliant. And that ending really fucking pissed me off, but I can't wait to see how the next episode starts, and I can't wait to see what was cut or added next time Annie News uploads one of these. So yeah, thanks for watching.